Please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to all those who have joined us online. So, friends, look here very carefully. Today, we are going to cover two units. One relates to how the industry has performed, the other one relates to how the services have performed. Now, the survey calls the industry related unit as road to recovery or steady recovery, something like that. It means the industrial sector is recovering, obviously, post the pandemic and the supply chain disruption that was caused by the Russia Ukraine crisis. Whereas services remain a source of strength for India. If you look at these two chapters, they are fully loaded with data. There is nothing substantial that we can discuss around these chapters because it is completely data driven, that this quarter this much growth in coal sector, this quarter this much growth in service sector or textile sector or something like that, right? Steel sector. So what we will do is that I will tell you the core concepts around the services and the industry, and we will just see through the slides, but it will not take us long to cover these two chapters because see, the meat of the survey is over. The first chapter, the second chapter, they are more important. Whenever there is a question on survey, it is most likely that the question would be related to some new term that has been used in the survey. Got it? So there will be some new terms in these two chapters as well. We will try to take a look at that as well. But look here, what is the importance of industry? If we try to ponder over that question, we'll find three answers. First, industry helps in replacing, it means industrial growth helps in replacing imports. Got it? If you have good industrial growth in the country, then you will produce your own goods and services, or your dependence on imported goods and services would reduce drastically. That's one major benefit. And when we say reduction of imports or lower dependence on imports, can I also say it means more savings of what? Of forex, which is always very precious because you know that our currency is not a hard currency. That's why we have to maintain the forex reserves, and whenever there is depreciation of the Indian rupee to a large scale, you know that it hurts our vital imports, and it creates a scenario wherein our CAD, it increases. Our current account deficit, as it increases, you know, that has a direct bearing on our macroeconomic stability and a direct influence on the credit rating of the country. So that's why one major benefit of industrial growth in the country is it helps in replacing imports, or it reduces the dependence on imports, helps in saving forex reserves, or helps in improving the current account deficit scenario, or you can say the balance of trade improves if there is industrial growth. Second important factor that relates to industry is its role in reducing unemployment. Industrial growth always reduces unemployment quicker than services growth. Why? Because services sector is high skill, high paying sector. So you have to have several skills to get a job in the service sector. Like, say, for example, you want to work as an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, consultant, etc. It means you must have acquired an array of skills. Only then you will be employable. But industrial sector, like think of a soap factory or a toy factory or something like that, it can employ semi-skilled and unskilled labor as well. That's why the employment elasticity of the industrial sector is too high. Now, what is this term, employment elasticity? It means that 1% change in GDP causes how much percentage of change in employment? So manufacturing is one sector which is very labor intensive. Got it? That's why it has a very high income or employment multiplier effect, or employment elasticity. Employment elasticity is nothing but change in one variable causes change in how much percentage in some other variable. That is elasticity, right? So because of industrial growth, you will say that unemployment reduces at a fast rate. If we want to create more jobs, we have to focus on manufacturing, because not all people are highly skilled people. Very few people are highly skilled, right? If you look at the total percentage of the labor force that is there in India, maybe 5 to 10% would be extremely high skilled. not more than that. But most of the labor is semi-skilled or unskilled. And in order to absorb that, you have to develop manufacturing. So that's the second important advantage of industrial growth in the country. So did you understand that how it helps in saving the forex reserves and how it helps in reducing unemployment? The third important thing is industrial growth has a direct repercussion on service sector growth. Like say for example, somebody establishes a factory and produces suppose cars. Now look at the service sector industries or service sector areas that gets a fillip because of the industrial production. Think about the insurance, banking, trade, transport, all these are services. They also automatically grow. Why? Because of the multiplier effect created by the industrial sector. Do you get it? So these are the three major advantages of industrial growth. So if there is a question in the mains examination related to how manufacturing can alter the employment landscape in India, you can obviously highlight because industrial sector has a very high employment elasticity because it is very labor intensive. Do you get it? Because it can absorb semi-skilled and unskilled labor, whereas services sector requires generally highly skilled labor. Like say for example, administration is also services. To become an IAS officer, you must have a lot of skills. Not everybody can become an IAS officer. Do you understand that? Now, if you look at India's GDP, you'll find that 30% of India's GDP is industrial sector, or the industrial sector contributes 30% to the total output. Think something like that. But it employs nearly 12.1 crore people in India. So it's the job creation capability of the industrial sector is any day more than the job creation capability of the services sector. Also, the services sector, you see that because it pays a lot and it is mostly driven by, say, automation, the labor requirement is also less. Whereas in some of the manufacturing sectors, like say, for example, food processing, leather goods related, or footwear, clothing, you can automate them, but only to a certain extent. After that, you would require manual labor. That's why it creates a lot of employment. So that is the importance of industrial sector in the country. Let's take a look at the slides. Now, look here, the survey calls it industry steady recovery. The industry holds a prominent position in the Indian economy, contributing about 30% of the total gross value added. It means nothing but GDP in the country, employing over 12.1 crore people. The sector's relevance can be identified through various direct and indirect linkages with other sectors. First, helps in reducing import burden. I've already explained that, how it helps in reducing import burden. Second, it creates employment because of the multiplier effects. You see here, some industries such as textile and construction have high employment elasticities. Now, what is employment elasticity? Look here, employment elasticity is a measure of the percentage change in employment with a 1 percentage point change in economic growth. It means when GDP increases by 1%, by how many percent the employment increases? Do you understand that? So maybe GDP increases by 1%, employment, if that GDP increase in 1% is because of industrial growth, then change in employment can be more than 3 to 4%. Do you understand that? Because it has very high employment elasticity. Greater the employment elasticity indicates towards more labor intensive growth. Maybe you can understand agricultural sector is more elastic than the industrial sector, whereas the industrial sector is more elastic than the services sector, because in the agricultural sector unskilled labor can also be absorbed. The third important advantage of the industrial sector is the link with service sector. Industrial growth spurs growth in services sector such as banking, insurance, logistics, etc. So it creates a kind of spillover effects, and it also has multiplier effects, and that's why industrial growth becomes the backbone for economic sustainability. So write one line. Industrial sector creates several spillover and multiplier effects. creates several spillover and multiplier effects. Hence, it acts as the backbone. It acts as the backbone of any economy. Backbone of any economy. Now look here. See, manufacturing as a component, it has a weightage of more than 50% in the gross value added of the industrial sector. It means in the secondary sector, the highest weightage is of manufacturing. Keep this thing in mind, right? Like, so for example, mining is also an industrial activity. Though it is a primary activity, but we in our country consider it as an industrial activity. Manufacturing has the highest weightage in the IIP, Index for Industrial Production. लिख लो कहीं पर चाहो तो. Manufacturing has the highest weightage in IIP, Index for Industrial Production. Now look here. We'll try to understand the demand stimulus to industrial growth. It means what are the factors that are helping in pushing up the demand. The Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Chinese lockdown has increased the industrial input costs, which led to higher cost of production. This led to high core inflation. Remember, there are 8 core sectors and they are all industrial. The pent-up consumer demand, I hope you remember this term as well. Pent-up demand means demand which was accumulated over a period of time, released at one go. That is pent-up demand. In the post-pandemic Indian economy is inducing an industrial recovery despite the global headwinds. Now, what is this term headwind? See, headwind generally in geography means a wind which is coming in opposite direction, which acts as a hurdle in the path of movement. In economics, headwind means those factors that reduce the rate of growth. Do you understand that? Like, say, for example, Ukraine crisis or the China's zero COVID policy, these are global headwinds. So despite the global headwinds, you see industrial sector is constantly recovering. Private final consumption expenditure as a share of GDP in half yearly 1 of financial year 23 was the highest since financial year 15. It is in fact highest in the second highest in the last 46 months. जो private consumption है, and that is mostly because of the pent up demand. Do you understand that? Now, what is global headwinds? You see this. Headwinds are identified as factors that may slow the growth of an economy or a company. That is headwind. Strong external demand also served the Indian industry well in financial year 22 when manufactured exports soared, responding to a rebound in global growth. And why does that happen? Do you remember that the advanced economies, they were following quantitative easing, and that's why there was a lot of demand, and especially demand for industrial goods. And when the demand was not met by their own domestic production, they started importing, and India was a good market to import from. Why? Because the Indian goods are price competitive. Do you get that? Then increase in investment demand has emerged as a powerful stimulus to industrial growth. It has been triggered by a jump in the capex. Remember, the capital expenditure made by the central and the state governments. This has crowded in private investment, remember that as well, and the private sector's balance sheets are also recovering. Consumption has also improved, export stimulus and the strengthening of corporate balance sheet. All these things have shaped the demand landscape, or you can say that they have all helped in improving the demand in the economy for industrial goods. Now, reasons for increase in private investment. First, the IBC. Because of this, a lot of industries are now relaxed. Rollout of the GST. इसकी वजह से भी आसान हो गया है सब कुछ अब, right? Because the cascading effect of taxes have been reduced. Half yearly 1 of financial year 23 recorded the highest share of gross fixed capital formation in GDP among all half years since financial year 15. Now, what is this gross fixed capital formation? It is simply means, you can say, creation of more machines or more production units. Do you understand that? Gross fixed capital formation. Fixed capital formation means they generally stay where they are and they help in improving the production in an economy, or they help in improving the output in an economy. Think of machinery that is being installed in factory. Got it? So that has also been very high. Supply response of industry. The supply response of industry to the demand stimulus has been robust, as seen in high frequency indicators. Purchasing managers index manufacturing. It means how much the manufacturers are purchasing inputs. That is a good indicator to find out how much the industrial sector is growing. So that has remained on expansionary zone for 18 months. It means there is more purchase of inputs. Like say for example, there is a furniture factory and you see that they are purchasing more logs now. It means they are producing more. If they are producing more, then there would be a push in GDP. Why? Because GDP is nothing but the money value of all the goods produced and services provided. The sustained growth of manufacturing output is also seen with the overall IIP production producing consumer durables, which is in sync with the pent-up consumption demand. Now, there are two types of goods generally, durables and non-durables. So, consumer durables, तो capital goods तो ऊपर गया ही है, consumer durable भी ऊपर गया है. The growth in 8 core sector industries has held steady, reflecting a broad momentum in industrial activity. Now, which are the 8 core sectors? इस पे question आ सकता है, right? In fact, एक बार आया भी था, तो ये देख लो आप क्या है ये 8 core sector: coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizer, steel, cement and electricity. ये ध्यान रखना. और इसमें सबसे ज्यादा contribution जो है वो है refinery products का. 26 point some percentage है, but सबसे ज्यादा production contribution उसी का है. The 8 core industry comprise 40.27% of weight of items included in the index of industrial production. Index of industrial production generally has manufacturing, electricity, power, etc. and mining. Do you understand that? और उसमें सबसे ज्यादा weightage किसका होता है? Manufacturing का. ये याद रखना. So these are some figures which shows that how manufacturing has also increased, capital good formation, infrastructure, construction goods, consumer durables, सब ऊपर गया है. And how manufacturing, PMI manufacturing, purchaser managers index manufacturing, it remains in the expansionary zone, means more inputs are being purchased. Let's take a look at, अच्छा देखो, two important indicators of industrial growth is, see how the bank credit scenario is. It means banks are giving more loan or not. If banks are giving more loans, what kind of loans? Business loans. It means that there is industrial activity. And second is, look at the FDI inflow. If FDI inflow also increases, it means that there is industrial activity going on. So ये दोनों भी बड़ा है इंडिया में. Look at this: robust growth in credit demand combined with rising capacity utilization. You understand the term capacity utilization? And investment in manufacturing underscores businesses' optimism regarding future demand. It means they are taking more loan and investing because they feel that the demand will continue, because there is already the effect of pent-up demand. And the demand will only continue. Why? Because the contact services have opened up, people have again started generating income, and that has improved their purchasing power. So the demand sustainability is there. Now, a large share of bank credit continues to be assigned to large industries. Credit to MSMEs has also seen a significant increase, and we saw that in the very first class that the ECLGS is primarily responsible for that, because now the MSMEs have a backing of the government. Therefore, banks are more willing to lend to the MSMEs, and MSMEs, they produce the largest number of jobs in the country. Keep this thing in mind, right? Now, resilient FDI inflow in manufacturing sector. Annual FDI equity inflow in the manufacturing sector have jumped from US $12.1 billion in financial year 21 to US $21.3 billion in financial year 22. So you can understand that how much is the jump in FDI. It's a meteoric rise. With the rise in global uncertainty in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, FDI equity inflow in manufacturing in the first half of financial year 23 fell below its corresponding level in the first half of financial year 22. Now, what is FDI equity inflow? What is FDI? How do you define FDI, foreign direct investment? Okay. You have to tell me, अच्छा लिखो कहीं पर. Which of the following are FDI? As a question. Which of the following are FDI? Is are FDI? ऐसे करो. ठीक है. First statement लिखो. An American purchasing majority stake in an Indian company. A foreigner भी कर सकते हो. A foreigner purchasing majority stake in Indian company. Second, a foreign organization establishing its branch in India. Like for example, have you heard about PepsiCo India? ऐसा टाइप का कुछ, ठीक है. Third, a defense manufacturing company based in Russia, defense manufacturing company based in Russia, transferring technology to an Indian defense manufacturing unit. Transferring technology to an Indian defense manufacturing unit. Okay, your options are 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3. फिर से देखो एक बार फिर से देखो. All of the above. Question is clear to everyone? बोलो, सोचो. इसी में है FDI का डेफिनेशन. अगर FDI का डेफिनेशन पता है तो आपको इसका आंसर पता है. Now look here, what is the definition of FDI? Then you will find out the answer for yourself. FDI is when a foreign investor comes in India and invests with the intention to establish a production unit that will roll out some goods or services and produce jobs, or purchases majority stake in an Indian company, or simply transfers technology. That is FDI. Do you understand that? So the answer for this is all. All of them are foreign direct investment. समझ में है? तो अब देखो इसका मतलब क्या होता है. FDI इक्विटी इनफ्लो समझ में आ रहा है. FDI इक्विटी इनफ्लो समझ में आ गया. क्या हो सकता है? इट मींस फॉरेनर परचेजिंग शेयर्स ऑफ इंडियन कंपनी. इंडिया में अब ये है कि अगर 10% से ज्यादा आप शेयर खरीद लेते हो, दैट इज ट्रीटेड एज FDI. You understand that? So right somewhere in India, if a foreign investor purchases more than 10%, in India, if a foreign investor purchases more than 10% of equity, in any Indian company, it is now treated as FDI. It is now treated as FDI. अच्छा बताओ इसको FDI क्यों मान रहे हैं हम? It is not majority holding. See, if you purchase more than 50% of share in a company, the company becomes yours. But in this case, the company does not become yours. Then why are we treating it as FDI? Why not FPI? क्या हो सकता है रीजन? सोच के देखो. See, FPI money is hot money. Are you aware about that? Fly by night. It means it can fly overnight. When you declare any investment as FDI investment, then that money cannot be withdrawn immediately, because now you have to follow the clauses of FDI investment. Secondly, FDI investors also get a lot of advantages in India. So it's a win-win situation for both. The investors also make merry, and the government is also sure that this money will not be taken away immediately. But more technically, if you want to understand, 10% of equity in an Indian company is huge. You, even if you want to pull out immediately, you will not be able to pull out. Because 10% को अगर आपको dilute करना है तो आपको बहुत सारे VCs के पास जाना पड़ेगा, venture capitalists के पास. Do you understand that? और अगर आप वो करोगे तो that will take time because that will also involve the creation of term sheet, discussion, negotiation, discount to face value, par values, ये सब पे सारी बातें होंगी. So it will all take time. So you cannot move out immediately. Do you get it? Now, look here. The monetary tightening at the global level has further restricted the FDI equity inflows. Remember, what is this monetary tightening at the global level? US Fed Reserve ने सबसे पहले interest rate ऊपर किया और फिर सारे central banks ने ऊपर किए. Remember, that also caused a depreciation in Indian rupee. Now, this is what you have to just keep track of. Sector wise FDI equity inflow की बात हो रही है सिर्फ. तो सबसे ज्यादा जो है वो हुआ है आपका कंप्यूटर सॉफ्टवेयर एंड हार्डवेयर. सबसे ज्यादा. Do you understand that? FDI that has come. Now, FDI policy reforms to bolster investment. What are these? 100% FDI under automatic route was permitted for the sale of coal and coal mining activities, including associated processing infrastructure, subject to provisions of relevant acts. It means the industrial acts. Do you understand that? Coal. अब देखो coal का क्या हुआ? हमारे country में coal है. Do we have good reserves of coal? What kind of coal do we have? Bituminous coal. The point is that because of the corruption that has happened in the coal sector, we have not utilized our coal properly. और Paris climate change का agreement हो चुका है. और आपको पता है nationally determined contribution. Yesterday also we saw many such things. Nobody is allowing India or will allow India to touch her coal 25 years from now. So it is high time that we use our coal immediately. Otherwise, we will not be able to use it any further because of the strong climate regulations. And if there is a climate convention which becomes legally binding, then समझ में आया? तो इसके लिए हमको करना पड़ेगा. But for 30 years, 30 long years, we wasted the coal that we have because of the coal scam and all those kind of things. Are you aware about the coal gate? And in 2012, Supreme Court, it ordered reselling of all the other कोल मतलब जो भी कोल माइनिंग वो थे वो सब कुछ देने के लिए हो गया. और देखो हमारे यहाँ क्या है, कैप्टिव माइनिंग नहीं है बिकॉज इट इज फेल्ट दैट इफ यू अलाउ कैप्टिव माइनिंग then it would be promotion of crony capitalism. Well, that is not the case. What is captive mining? Captive mining is एक माइन का एक टुकड़ा आपने एक फैक्ट्री को दे दिया, एक इंडस्ट्री को दे दिया. आप बोलो कि आपने जैसे कोल इंडिया को दे दिया, तो अब आप ही इससे कोल निकालो और आपकी ही रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी टू यूज इट सस्टेनेबली. रादर what kind of mining we have? Open minings. इसमें एक ही माइन है, हर कोई निकाल रहा है वहां से. तो जब सब कोई निकालते हैं वहां से, then you understand that everybody is focusing on maximum extraction and they do not use it in a sustainable manner. Rather आप captive mines बनाओ और उनको कुछ years के लिए auction कर दो, तो उससे एक पैसा भी आएगा. Do you understand that? और वो use भी करेंगे अच्छे तरीके से उसको judiciously. Which will also, because they have the asset for a limited amount of time, if they have the asset for a limited amount of time, they will make the maximum use of that asset, and that will help in improving GDP. Anyhow, look here, 26% FDI under the government route has been permitted for uploading, streaming of news and current affairs through digital media. 100% FDI has been permitted in intermediaries or insurance intermediaries. To curb opportunistic takeovers, acquisition of Indian companies due to COVID-19 pandemic, the government amended the FDI policy. An entity of a country which shares a land border with India or where the beneficial owner of investment into India is situated in or is a citizen of any such country can invest only under the government route. देखो क्या हुआ जब कोविड रिलेटेड लॉकडाउन लगा तो बहुत सारे इंडस्ट्रीज की कमर टूट गई. So that's why they wanted to keep themselves alive. So they thought of disinvesting their holdings. Do you understand that? I'm talking about the private sector. But उस समय हो सकता है कोई फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर अपॉर्चुनिटी का फायदा उठाकर सारी इंडियन कंपनीज को फॉरेन कंपनीज बना ले, and they will then start serving the foreign interest rather than Indian interest. So FDI पॉलिसी में एक चेंज किया गया कि वो कंट्रीज जो लैंड बॉर्डर शेयर करती हैं इंडिया के साथ, इट मींस जनरली द टारगेट वाज पाकिस्तान. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? कि वहां का कोई एंटिटी इंडियन कंपनी को नहीं ले सकता फिर, और अगर लेना है तो आपको ऑटोमेटिक रूट के अंदर नहीं, आपको गवर्नमेंट रूट के अंदर जाना पड़ेगा. एंड दैट रिक्वायर्स द अप्रूवल ऑफ द फैसिलिटेशन बोर्ड. Also you see that there was something called the Foreign Investment Promotion Board. Well, it was the symbol of red tapeism in the country. It was abolished, and now what we have Foreign Investment Facilitation Portal. Remember I told you the job of government is to facilitate and not to be as a player in the climate. So that has also helped in improving the overall FDI in the country. Now we will see very briefly how different industries have performed. Start with MSMEs. The contribution of MSME sector to overall GVA rose from 29.3% in financial year 18 to 30.5% in 20 and fell to 26.8% in financial year 21. So obviously you can understand that was because of the COVID-19 thing. Government initiatives, अब ये ध्यान में रखना, these could be of some use. Modification of the definition of MSMEs. क्या modification किया है? Remember 25 crore, 25 to 100 crore वो हमने देखा था, वो वाला modification हो गया. Provision of 20,000 crore subordinate debt for stressed MSMEs. 50,000 crores equity infusion through self-reliant India fund. It's a fund which has been created for MSMEs. So ये question आ सकता है, recently self-reliant India fund was in news. It relates to MSMEs. Waiving of the global tender requirement for procurement of up to 200 crore. इन MSMEs भी कुछ import कर सकते हैं, कुछ उनका input. Launching of the Udyam portal for MSME registration. Again, you can find a question. Recently, the Udyam portal was in news. It relates to MSME. ध्यान रखना. ECLGS वो भी relates to MSMEs. Samadhan portal set up under the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act to monitor the outstanding dues of the MSME sector is helping MSMEs in resolving their cash flow difficulties. So Samadhan portal, again MSME. Champions, the single window grievance redressal portal for MSME. तो ये भी ध्यान रखना. These are the things that you have to keep in mind. ये डेटा वेटा नहीं कि 20% था वो 50% हो गया. Nobody is going to ask you those things. Raising and accelerating MSME's performance scheme, RAMP. तो ये भी हो सकता है. RAMP was in news. What it relates to. You see, it is very recent, right? It aims to improve center-state linkages and partnership and improving access to MSMEs to market and credit, technology upgradation and addressing issues of delayed payments and greening of MSMEs. Greening of MSMEs means giving green signal to MSMEs. It is a World Bank supported scheme. It will be implemented over a period of 5 years. So that it means that it will remain in news. So that's why RAMP relates to MSME. Champions relate to MSME. Samadhan, MSME. Udyam, MSME. ECLGS, MSME. ये सब कुछ याद रखना आपको. Electronics industry, let's take a look at that as well. The domestic electronics industry as of 20 is valued at US $118 billion. Electronic goods were among the top 5 commodity groups. India has become the second largest mobile phone manufacturer globally. Which is the largest? China, obviously. India has become the second largest. The industrial electronics sector is also seeing growth due to improved digitization and robotics application in Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 will be driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning. The impetus on smart cities and Internet of Things. Are you aware about this thing? Internet of Things. What is Internet of Things? It's a cloud-based service by which normal day-to-day appliances, they can be interconnected over a network. Will streamline the demand for smart and automated electronics like smart TV and all those kind of things. This is smart AC or abhi aisi baatein hoti hai na. Government initiatives for electronics manufacturing. So PLI, production linked incentive scheme for large scale electronics manufacturing. PLI scheme for IT hardware. मतलब PLI जो है वो electronics manufacturing पे अब लगा दिया गया. दूसरे sectors में भी है ये, but यहाँ पे भी अब applicable कर दिया गया. Coal industry. At the beginning of fiscal year, coal availability became a challenge for power generation because of the resurgence in economic activity and increasing the demand of power in the country due to heat wave. Government steps, देख लो आप. All generators were asked to import coal to the extent of 10% of their requirements. Section 11 of the Electricity Act 2003 was invoked to direct import coal-based plants to run at full capacity with the assurance that their enhanced cost of operation would be compensated. Tolling was enabled, which enabled states to transfer their allotted coal to private generators near the mines. This is what I was referring to captive mining. उसकी ये पहला step है उसके तरफ. US में होता है, UK में होता है, पूरी दुनिया में होता है. बट हमारे यहाँ ना वो कैप्टिव माइनिंग को अलाउ ही नहीं करते क्योंकि उनको लगता है कैप्टिव माइनिंग मतलब किसी इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रुप को दे देंगे तो वो जमा लेंगे अपना कब्जा कोल प्लांट. ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है. गवर्नमेंट लॉज रेगुलेशंस कुछ तो हैं. Rural Electrification Corporation, Power Finance Corporation and commercial banks were advised to facilitate the availability of additional working capital to power generating plants. Now what is this term working capital? What is it? It is that money which is required to conduct the day-to-day operations. That is working capital. Do you understand that? So working capital भी मिला है इनको. The coal industry is expected to grow at 6 to 7% annually to reach a production level of 1 billion tons by financial year 26 and about 1.5 billion tons by 2030. उसके बाद तो कोई यूज भी नहीं करने दे रहा. तो यही टाइम पीरियड है. अब कोल हमको यूज कर लेना चाहिए. Steel industry. The steel sector's performance in the current fiscal year has been robust with cumulative production and consumption of finished steel at 88 metric tons to and 86 metric tons respectively. The growth in finished steel production is aided by double-digit growth in consumption, 11% on an year-on-year basis. Iron and steel exports moderated in the first 8 months of current fiscal owing to a slowdown in global economy but are higher by 20% over the corresponding pre-pandemic levels of financial year 20. अब मुझे बताओ कि इसमें क्या याद रख सकते हो? कुछ भी नहीं याद रख सकते और रखना भी नहीं है. ठीक है, बस इतना जान के रखो कि सारी इंडस्ट्रीज रिकवर हो रही हैं. ये तो ध्यान में रहेगा ना, बस इतना ही ध्यान में रखना है. एंड सम न्यू टर्म्स दैट हैव बीन इंट्रोड्यूस्ड और लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल उद्यम पोर्टल रिलेट्स टू व्हाट. इस तरीके के क्वेश्चन आएंगे. Textile sector. Textile industry has been facing the challenge of moderating exports compared to financial year 22. FDI inflows into the textile sector are yet to recover to pre-pandemic levels. Government steps for textile sector. अब ये ध्यान में रखना. PM Mitra. PM Mitra was recently in news. It relates to textile sector. Textile PLI scheme. I told you that in the steel sector भी हुआ था ये, कोल में भी हुआ है और अब यहाँ भी हो रहा है. PLI production linked incentive scheme with an approved outlay of 10,683 crore over 5 years starting from 1st January 2022. Pharmaceutical industry. India's domestic pharmaceutical market is estimated at US $41 billion in 2021 and is likely to grow to US $65 billion by 2024. India is ranked third worldwide in the production of pharma products by volume and 14th by value. Third by in volume. It means first and second are China and US. The nation is the largest provider of generic medicines globally. Also, you know, Jan Arogya. Got it? So, वो भी एक बड़ा रोल प्ले किया उसने generic medicines ने. FDI inflows have increased fourfold over 5 years until September 2022 to US $699 million, supported by investor-friendly policies and positive outlook for the industry. Strengthening the pharmaceutical industry scheme or SPI scheme. इसमें क्या है ये देख लो आप. It aims to strengthen the existing infrastructure facilities by providing financial assistance to pharma clusters, production facilities of MSMEs, which will also aid in the overall pharma production or output. It also promotes knowledge and awareness about pharmaceutical and medical devices. Clear? So this scheme again becomes important. Recently SPI scheme was in news. Which of the following are true with respect to the SPI scheme? और हो सकता है जो statement है वो बिल्कुल यही statements. Do you understand that? So just keep track of them as well. Automobile sector. In December 2022, India became the third largest automobile market, which is the first and second. US is the first, second is China. In 2021, India was the largest manufacturer of two-wheeler and three-wheeler vehicles and the world's fourth largest manufacturer of passenger cars. Largest manufacturer of passenger car is US. Especially which car now? Electric cars. US बहुत बना रहा है. The domestic electric vehicle market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate or CAGR of 49% between 2022 to 2030. And here, most of the growth will be pushed by growth in electric vehicles and not in fossil fuel-based vehicles. India's prospect as a key player in the global value chain. The risk of supply chain shocks has never been more palpable than today following compounding crisis from US-China trade war, COVID-19 pandemic and war in Ukraine. These all have disrupted supply chains. Indian government steps to become a global manufacturing hub this decade. Now, Make in India 2 and PLI scheme. These are the two schemes which are pushing India to become a manufacturing hub. It is focusing on 27 sectors, which include 15 manufacturing sectors, 12 service sectors. अच्छा, एक चीज देखना. Make in India relates with only manufacturing. Is it true? No, it also relates with services sector. PLI का भी वैसा ही है. For both manufacturing as well as services. Amongst the 24 subsectors have been chosen while keeping in mind India's industry. PLI scheme spread across 14 sectors can enhance India's annual manufacturing capex by 15 to 20% from financial year 23. अब जो question आएगा तो कैसे आएगा? Recently, the PLI scheme was in news. The benefits of the scheme could be, first, it will help in improving the overall capex in the country. Second, it will give a push to employment generation. Third, it will increase GDP. All these are true. You understand that? तो ऐसे ही क्वेश्चन आने वाले हैं आपके. Recent development in PLI scheme, the launch of design-led PLI in June 2022 to promote the entire value chain in telecom manufacturing and to build a strong ecosystem for 5G. अभी तक है नहीं अपनी कंट्री में, किन्हें बन सकता है. The cabinet recently approved PLI scheme tranche 2. Tranche 2 means जिसका सेकेंड फेज बोल सकते हो आप, ऑन नेशनल प्रोग्राम ऑन हाई एफिशिएंसी सोलर फोटोवोल्टिक मॉड्यूल्स. तो ये भी अब PLI स्कीम के अंडर आ गया. फॉस्टरिंग इनोवेशन. The government has also strengthened its IPR regime by modernizing the IP office, reducing legal compliances and facilitating IP filing for startups, women entrepreneurs, small industries and others. This has resulted in 46% growth in domestic filing of patents, right, in India. India's transition towards a knowledge-based economy as per Global Innovation Index 2022 report. India entered the top 40 innovating countries for the first time in 2022. उससे पहले इंडिया का रैंक 80 90 ऐसा रहता था, राइट, 100 के पार रहता था, 40. और अब जैसे स्टार्टअप का कल्चर बन रहा है, it should not come as a surprise that if India breaches the top 10 mark in the next 2 to 3 years, हो सकता है, provided the government keeps on doing the support mechanism. Structural reforms enhancing ease of doing business. एक तो Make in India initiative. It has been striving to ensure that the business ecosystem in the nation is conducive for investors and ease of doing business. Now look here, amendments to laws, like what kind of laws? Labor laws, say for example, and liberalization of guidelines and regulations to reduce compliance burdens. Steps to promote manufacturing and investment include reduction in corporate taxes, public procurement and purchase phased manufacturing program. Now the question could be, which of the following have helped in improving the ease of doing business in India? Like say for example, reduction in corporate taxes, reduction in compliance burden, all those kind of statements, right? तो ऐसे आपके questions होंगे. India and Industry 4.0. India has made significant strides in internet penetration, which is one of the key requisites of Industry 4.0. The push towards self-reliance in semiconductor technology and production will help India erect another pillar in hyper-efficient processing technology. Government steps for Industry 4.0. ये ध्यान में रखना, समर्थ, which is smart advanced manufacturing and rapid transformation hubs. Udyog Bharat 4.0, which is part of Industry 4.0. So Samarth Udyog Bharat 4.0, which was recently in news. ऐसा कुछ question आ सकता है, Ministry of Heavy Industries के अंदर है ये, which aims to encourage technological solutions to Indian manufacturing units through awareness programs and demonstration. The Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution in India in 2018, which looks to develop policy frameworks for emerging technologies. अब ये भी एक question हो सकता है, which are the 24 subsectors under Make in India 2.0. तो ये I have given you a list. अब जैसे जिम इक्विपमेंट, टॉयज वगैरह ये भी इंक्लूड कर लिए गए हैं मेक इन इंडिया 2 पे. तो ये भी एक क्वेश्चन हो सकता है, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर इज आर नॉट पार्ट ऑफ मेक इन इंडिया 2.0. तो 24 है, देख लेना, एक बार नजर दौड़ा लोगे तो वैसे भी ध्यान आ जाएगा. दैट इज इट, दैट्स द चैप्टर, राइट. और बड़ा मुश्किल है ऐसे चैप्टर्स को पढ़ना, क्योंकि इसमें कुछ ज्यादा है नहीं. इट्स मोस्टली फैक्ट एंड डेटा ड्रिवन. पर अब आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि फर्स्ट क्लास व्हाई आई टुक इट एट सच डिटेल. नाउ इट बिकम्स सो इजी फॉर यू, राइट, क्योंकि आपको कुछ एक्स्ट्रा चीजें याद रखनी है, जैसे समर्थ उद्योग पोर्टल. और देखो ये पूरा यूनिट जो है, इट इज आई थिंक 25-30 पेजेस एंड आई हैव समराइज्ड इट इन 4 पेजेस. यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड. इससे ज्यादा है भी नहीं इसमें कुछ पढ़ने के लिए. उसमें तो एक ये फोटो नहीं ले लिया बहुत सारे. So let's move to chapter 10, services, source of strength. India's services sector witnessed a swift rebound in financial year 22, driven by growth in contact intensive services. ये हम देख चुके हैं, because of vaccination, universal vaccination, driven by release of pent up demand, ease of mobility restriction. Mobility restriction means now you can move very frequently because the lockdown thing is done. Near universal vaccination coverage. तो अब जो क्वेश्चन आएगा वो ऐसे ही आ सकता है, that recently the services sector has performed well due to, and these could be the reasons. All of them are true. India is among the top 10 services exporting countries in 2021. और हमारा सबसे बड़ा सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट कौन सा कंपोनेंट है? IT सर्विसेज. India's services export have remained resilient during COVID-19 pandemic and amid current geopolitical uncertainties driven by higher demand for digital support, cloud services and infrastructure modernization catering to new challenges. To ensure the liberalization of investment in various industries, the government has permitted 100% foreign participation in telecommunication services, including all services and infrastructure providers through the automatic route. There is one, the approval route. The second is the automatic route. But a foreign investment promotion board nahi hai. Foreign investment facilitation portal hai. Do you understand that? And that is also a single window clearance. As per the first advanced estimates of financial year 23, gross value added growth in services sector will be driven by contact intensive services like tourism, retail trade, hotel, entertainment and recreation. अब देखो, these are some indicators of the service sector. PMI services, जैसे PMI manufacturing था, witnessed an upstick, it means ये grow किया है. Bank credit, वो भी बढ़ा है. And the World Investment Report says that FDI in services has also increased. तो ये तीनों चीजें बढ़ी हैं, चाहे वो सर्विसेज हो या चाहे वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो, दोनों के लिए बढ़ी है, ध्यान रखना. तो PMI services, bank credit, FDI. Question could be, which of the following can be considered as indicators for growth in the service sector or manufacturing sector? First, the amount of input purchased by producers. ऐसे होगा, PMI managers ऐसा कुछ डायरेक्ट नहीं लिखा होगा. Second, banks giving more industrial loans or expansion in banking credit, ऐसा कुछ technical term लिखा होगा. And then maybe say more equity capital coming from offshore locations into Indian market, which is nothing but FDI. समझ में? बात ऐसी ही होती है घुमा फिरा कर. अब देखो जो different industries हैं वो देख लेते कैसे perform किए हैं. Tourism, as per the World Tourism Barometer of United Nations World Tourism Organization, international tourism showed robust performance in January-September 2022. It was boosted by strong demand, improved confidence levels, and lifting of restrictions. Medical tourism, India is ranked 10th out of the top 46 countries in world in the Medical Tourism Index released by Medical Tourism Association. By the way, do you know that a lot of South Asians come to India for medical treatment? Why? Because it is cheaper. और इंडियन डॉक्टर्स जो हैं उनका जो सक्सेस रेट है, स्ट्राइक रेट जिसको अगर आप बोल सकते हो, स्ट्राइक रेट जो है वो यूएस के डॉक्टर से अच्छा है. यू विल बी सरप्राइज्ड टू नो दिस. ठीक है, क्योंकि हमारे बहुत रिस्क में काम होता है, वहां ऐसा होता नहीं है. होटल इंडस्ट्री, इफ यू सी कि द एवरेज रूम रेट एंड अ राइज इन रेवेन्यू पर अवेलेबल रूम, मतलब room occupancy has also gone up, obviously because of opening up of tourism and all those kind of contact services. The occupancy rate has completely recovered to an average pre-pandemic level. Real estate, RERA guidelines 2016 के बाद real estate में भी jump आया है. According to JLL actually is a real estate company, right? 2022 Global Real Estate Transparency Index, India real estate transparency is among the top 10 most improved markets globally. हम हमेशा बोलते रहते हैं ना कि रियल एस्टेट में बहुत ज़्यादा ब्लैक मनी है, रियल एस्टेट बहुत डार्क सेक्टर है, लेकिन ओवरऑल वर्ल्ड में देखोगे तो इंडियन रियल एस्टेट इज वेरी ट्रांसपेरेंट. कहीं कहीं पे तो ऐसे रियल एस्टेट का हाल है, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल पाकिस्तान, ऐसा हाल है रियल एस्टेट का, आप बता ही नहीं सकते कि किसके पास है, कौन है ओनर उस रियल एस्टेट का. इतने ज़्यादा वो हैंड्स चेंज करते हैं जल्दी जल्दी. द रशिया यूक्रेन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हैज फर्दर अफेक्टेड द सप्लाई चेन. It has resulted in price escalations of steel, cement, finishing materials, imported chemicals and fuels, thereby increasing the overall construction costs and resulting in the rise in housing prices. Real estate investment trusts, institutional investment has increased along with the real estate investment trust. Regulatory initiatives such as Model Tenancy Act, digitization of land registers, market data through Dharani and Maharera platforms, these are nothing but portals, right, have helped to broaden market and bring more formalization to the sector. But आपको याद है हाउसिंग से रिलेटेड 2 इंडेक्स देखे थे हमने, रिमेंबर दैट? वो 2 इंडेक्स से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन आने के चांसेस ज्यादा हैं. बट इतना है कि हाउसिंग सेक्टर हैज इंप्रूव्ड, रियल एस्टेट हैज इंप्रूव्ड. वेरियस मेजर्स टू बूस्ट, एंड रियल एस्टेट इज नॉट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, इट इज सर्विसेज. ठीक है, कंस्ट्रक्शन इज मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, बट रियल एस्टेट जब वो आप हाउसिंग की बात करते हो, दैट इज सर्विसेज. Various measures to boost the housing sector. Permission of RBI to lending institution to grant a total moratorium. Moratorium मतलब जैसे आप EMI भरते थे तो अब उसको 6 महीने तक का आप अपनी EMI रोक भी सकते हो. मतलब आप एक मोराटोरियम मतलब सस्पेंशन बैंक्स दे सकते हैं. अब ये परमिशन RBI ने दे दिया है. It means more people would be willing. to purchase homes now, because you know, middle class families, it is not possible that every month they would be able to pay huge sums, like say for example 70,000 EMI per month. Every family, it's not possible, because there could be a medical crisis some month. तो ऐसा कुछ मोरेटोरियम आ गया है. प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना क्रेडिट लिंक सब्सिडी स्कीम अर्बन, इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन ऑन लोन्स टू बेनिफिशियरीज, ये भी हुआ. अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग फंड ये बन गया है. Co-lending model, it aims to leverage the liquidity based of the banks and reach housing finance corporations to deliver formal housing credit to the bottom of the pyramid. मतलब बैंक्स के पास जो एक्स्ट्रा पैसा है वो हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन को दे देते हैं, और हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन उसको फिर लेंडर्स को देते हैं, मतलब बोरोअर्स को देते हैं, जिससे कि वो घर खरीद सके. LGSCATSS, under the loan guarantee scheme for COVID affected tourism sector, administered through the National Credit Guarantee Trustee Company, working capital personal loans are provided to households that were impacted due to COVID-19 pandemic to discharge liabilities and restart businesses. तो मतलब उनको भी एक फंड बना दिया गया है. Real estate has also shown improvement. Information technology and business process management industry, according to NASSCOM's report, India's IT BPM industry has been exceptionally resilient during the pandemic. In fact, it has grown because there was a lot of telemedicine, tele-education, all those kind of things. This is driven by increased technology, accelerated adoption, transformation. Also, the digital payments that we have done, उससे भी काफी growth हुई है. The industry recorded 10% estimated growth in direct employee pool in financial year 22, with a highest ever net addition to its employee base. India has emerged as a global powerhouse for engineering, R&D, and innovation, and is steadfastly committed to ushering future growth and innovation for global enterprises. IT services, many global competency centers have been incorporated in India in the last 6 years. These are generic statements, just एक बार पढ़ लेना. IT services constitute the major share, greater than 51% in the overall sector. Customer centricity, domain specific solutions, a digital first talent pool, and a laser sharp focus on creating future ready solutions. Have you heard about something called SaaS? SaaS नाम सुना है? हिंदी वाला नहीं, इंग्लिश वाला. SaaS, SaaS, software as a service. Do you understand that? So you write something. SaaS, software as a service, has grown in India in financial year 23. The rate of growth is highest in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years. Put a full stop and write, this growth is mainly pushed by SaaS startups. SaaS startups. तो SaaS based startups बहुत आ रहे हैं अभी, SaaS or SaaS, whatever you want to say. E-commerce, let's take a look at that. Remember, इंडिया ने अभी गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ कर दिया है ई-कॉमर्स से रिलेटेड. जैसे Amazon का बोरोअर जो बायर है वो फ्लिपकार्ट से खरीद सकता है. Remember that? Very good. E-commerce sector witnessed a renewed push and a sharp increase in penetration in the aftermath of the pandemic. According to the Global Payments Report by World Pay FIS, India's e-commerce market is projected to post impressive gains and grow at 18% annually through 2025. Fashion, grocery, general merchandise sector would capture nearly 2/3 of Indian e-commerce market by 2027. By the way, what Indians shop the most on e-commerce websites? Do you have any idea? Clothing. That's fashion related goods. Do you understand that? और उसमें क्या होता है कि like say for example cosmetics, वो प्रोडक्ट्स छोटे होते हैं लेकिन उनकी वैल्यू बहुत ज्यादा होती है. आपके यहाँ इतना छोटा सा ही डब्बा आएगा लेकिन उसमें हो सकता है हजारों के प्रोडक्ट्स. Now MSMEs have used digital services like e-commerce and e-procurement, realizing the prospects of increased revenues and margins, improved market reach, access to new markets, and customer acquisition. Government e-marketplace has also witnessed tremendous growth in gross merchandise value and is catching up with e-commerce giants like Amazon. GEM has taken a host of steps to onboard products of self-help groups, tribal communities, artisans, weavers, and MSMEs. Digital financial services, if we take a look at that, enabled by emerging technologies and innovative solutions are accelerating financial inclusion. तो इसमें बस ध्यान रखने वाली बात है, digital financial services promotes financial inclusion. Correct statement. Democratizing access and spurring the personalization of products. Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity, UPI. Have you heard about those apps like upstock, Zerodha? ऐसे नाम सुना है? पहले क्या होता था कि शेयर मार्केट में इन्वेस्टमेंट एक बहुत ट्रबलसम चीज लगती थी, लेकिन अब बहुत सारे लोग कर सकते हैं. बिल्कुल ई कॉमर्स में कुछ खरीदने जैसा हो गया है. बट यू मस्ट हैव सम बेसिक नॉलेज ऑफ इकोनॉमी. एक होता है शेयर मार्केट में इन्वेस्टमेंट. इन्वेस्टमेंट अच्छा होता है, लेकिन खराब क्या होता है, मतलब मुश्किल में लोग का पैसा कहाँ जाता है? ट्रेडिंग में. दैट टू इंट्राडे ट्रेडिंग. कि जैसे आपको लगा कि ये जो है शेयर, इसकी वैल्यू अभी 10 रुपए है, 12 रुपए हो जाएगी, और आपने 10 करोड़ लगा दिए कि 12 करोड़ मिल जाएगा, यही सोच के लगाया, और समझ लो वो 10 से 4 रुपए हो जाए, तो क्या होगा? आपके 10 करोड़ का आपको 4 ही मिलेगा. तो इसमें जाता है पैसा, कि लोग बोलते हैं ना कि 6 करोड़ डूब गए एक ही दिन में, तो ट्रेडिंग में जाता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट में नहीं जाता. अब आप कोई ऐसी कंपनी में लगा दो, लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल यू पुट इन से ONGC, or you put in say companies like Colgate. Now what happened in USA, you know, that chartered accountants and economists, they were asked to pick 5 stocks, and 5-year-old people were asked to pick 5 stocks, and after 10 years the growth rate was checked between the stocks that were picked by the economists and the chartered accountants. उन्होंने पूरा अपनी कैलकुलेशन करके पूरा सेक्टर वेक्टर एनालाइज करके 5 स्टॉक निकाले थे. उसमें जो ग्रोथ हुई, उससे ज्यादा ग्रोथ जो बच्चों ने पिक की थी उसमें हुआ. बताऊं क्यों? क्योंकि द किड्स दे पिक्ड अप स्टॉक्स ऑफ कंपनीज व्हिच दे लाइक्ड, एंड दे वेर दोस कंपनीज व्हिच एवरीबॉडी इज एसोसिएटेड विद. क्या चूज किया उन्होंने? कैडबरी, डिज्नी, ठीक है, और ये सब ग्रो किया वक्त के साथ. सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट, यू जस्ट सी फ्रॉम डे टू डे कि आपके घर में आप क्या सामान यूज करते हो. उस कंपनी को अगर आप पैसा दोगे तो इट विल फेच यू मोर इनकम. टेल यू द क्विकेस्ट वे टू बिकम पुअर इज टू सेव मनी इन बैंक्स. क्विकेस्ट वे टू बिकम पुअर. एंड टुडे आज जो थोड़े इंटेलिजेंट हैं वो अपना समझ लो 90% पैसा बैंक से बाहर रखते हैं. आप कहीं भी रखो. जनरली इंडियंस का क्या है कि वो इन्वेस्टमेंट के नाम पे क्या सोचते हैं कि अगर बैंक में नहीं है तो विल परचेज गोल्ड और वी विल परचेज लैंड. ठीक है, उससे अच्छा इट इज द टाइम टू परचेज फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स, बिकॉज फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स हैव अ वेरी हाई ROI, रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, और रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट. देखो, India took the lead with fintech adoption rate of 87%, substantially higher than world average of 64%, as per the latest global fintech adoption index. Neobanks, have you seen that Paytm ने भी अपना बैंक खोल दिया है, तो वही उसी को नियो बैंक बोलते हैं. नियो बैंक segment has also risen consistently. 75 digital banking units across 75 districts announced in Union Budget 2022-23. Central bank digital currency RBI ने निकाला है, डिजिटल रूपी, और पायलट प्रोजेक्ट पे अभी. बट देखो क्या होता है, डिजिटाइजिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स और डिजिटलाइजिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स, दीज टू थिंग्स हैव आल्सो गिवन अ फिलिप टू द ओवरऑल यूजेज ऑफ डिजिटल मनी. दैट्स इट. दैट्स द चैप्टर. देखो, अब मैं बार बार कह रहा हूं आपसे कि इसमें कुछ ज्यादा याद रखने लायक है नहीं, बट हाँ, जैसे समर्थ हो गया, PM उद्योग हो गया, ई संजीवनी पढ़ा था कल, तो ऐसी टाइप की चीजें जो है उससे रिलेटेड. देखो कितने ही क्वेश्चन आएंगे इकोनॉमी से, मैक्सिमम 15 to 16, 7 या 8 ही आने वाले हैं ना सर्वे से, तो उसमें आप बहुत ज्यादा डेटा पे मत जाना. बट अगर आपको इकोनॉमी नहीं भी आती, अगर आप सर्वे ही पढ़ लो तब भी बहुत सारा सॉल्व हो जाएगा. You understand that? That's why survey becomes very crucial. Got it? Any questions? Anything? Tier 1 and bonds. Now, see, अच्छा कल भी कुछ पूछा था. What did you ask? Okay, चलो चारों चीजें बता देते हैं. Look here. Deposit multiplier. What is it? See, banks hold some deposits with themselves. Like say for example, if a bank has 100 rupees, do you think it will lend all the 100 rupees? No, it will keep some of it with itself. Sometimes for its own financial prudence, sometimes because it is mandated by the government. Like say for example, you all are aware about the SLR, which the banks must hold in order to invest it into government securities. So that is the deposit. You understand that? So suppose a bank has, let's assume it has $100 and it has held $10 with it. That is deposit or reserve with the bank. You understand that? Now think about central banks. Central banks also maintain reserve. You understand that? Like say for example, the forex reserves. But deposit multiplier, it is a technical term, and now I am explaining it for every bank. But different banks may have different kind of understanding of deposit multiplier because their deposits vary. You understand that? Commercial banks के पास हो सकता है SLR उनका deposit हो और Reserve Bank के पास हो सकता है forex reserve deposit हो. But whatever be the case, deposit multiplier means for every unit of deposit that you have, like in this case, suppose there are $10, it means there are 10 units of deposits. So for every unit of deposit, how much more money can you create? That is deposit multiplier. You understand that? Now the second one was money multiplier. Money multiplier is nothing but it is the total amount of credit that you can, it means with respect to your deposit or with respect to any other variable, how much credit you can create through the banking channel so as to impact the overall money supply in the market. Do you understand that? Simple words, deposit multiplier में मतलब आप कितना मनी छाप सकते हो और मनी मल्टीप्लायर में कितना मनी बांट सकते हो. You understand that? That is it. Then bonds. Okay. Now look here. These bonds could be seen with respect to several sectors. Now, tier 1 bonds are generally those bonds which do not come with a convertible feature. Convertible feature means these features enable a bond to be converted into an equity. Like ऐसे होता है आपके कुछ convertible debentures. Do you understand that? Convertible debentures are not tier 1, whereas tier 2 are convertible. ये एक understanding है. एक दूसरी understanding ये भी है. Do you remember tier 1 capital and tier 2 capital? So the bonds are being floated to raise what kind of capital? Tier 1 or tier 2? Remember we discussed something in the class called capital adequacy ratio of banks or capital to risk weighted assets ratio. तो उसमें tier 1 tier 2 दो कैपिटल की बात हुई थी. तो उस कैपिटल को रेस करने के लिए भी तो बॉन्ड इश्यू किया जा सकता है. तो वैसे भी देखा जा सकता है इसको. It differs, the understanding differs in different contexts, right? But keep this in mind, as far as the preliminary examination is concerned, I don't think these kind of questions will be asked because there are too high level concept wise. एकदम सीधा सीधा क्वेश्चन आएगा जैसे PM Shri. Remember that? It was recently in news. It relates to growth in the textile sector. Second, it promotes automobile manufacturing. It is an innovation index. Third, it helps in promoting education by creating model schools. अब लोगों को लगेगा innovation index यही वाला होगा. PM Shri ऐसा ही कुछ यही होता है. This is because you are not aware. एकदम सीधा सीधा क्वेश्चन. तो बिल्कुल डोंट वेस्ट योर टाइम. और अगर कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन आएगा तो वो थियोरेटिकल सेक्शन से फिर क्या पूछेंगे? So it would be like inflation related question, monetary policy, inflation, fiscal policy. ये तीन चीज अगर अच्छे से तैयार है तो 7-8 क्वेश्चन तो ऐसे ही हो गए. सर्वे ठीक से पढ़ लिया तो 5-6 और हो गए. बस बाकी 1-2-3 क्वेश्चन तो हमेशा ऊपर नीचे रहता ही है. I'm being very practical. Do you understand that? Ideally, so you can solve any question. So that is it. That's the class. We'll have one more class and we'll finish the survey. और उसके बाद जो क्लास होगी that would be important. That is budget, right? तो वो थोड़ी लंबी होगी. But keep revising these things. देखो ये again I'm telling you no need of by hearting ये जो भी आपका डेटा फिगर है. What you can do, आप एक शीट बना लो, उसमें जो भी मैं आपको पीडीएफ्स दे रहा हूँ उससे निकाल कर जो इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म्स है ना, जैसे पीएम श्री हो गया, उद्योग हो गया, ऐसा कुछ एक बना लो. दैट विल हेल्प यू. और जो सर्वे में है वही आने वाला है, उससे बाहर कुछ नहीं आने वाला. सो डोंट वेस्ट योर टाइम रीडिंग मटेरियल दैट इज अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट. यू विल बी जस्ट स्क्वांडरिंग इट. दैट इज इट. थैंक यू वेरी मच. मुझे क्या मालूम, मैंने तो ऑफ की ऑन. अरे ये क्या कर रहे हैं?